everything that is or was began with a dream. That, my friends, being the opening quote to what it is that I'm reviewing. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and, well, yes, you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing, and as was teased, quite literally in the last review video. I'm sure you knew right away. Of course you did, yeah. And with what I just quote, again, that being the opening quote that starts off this movie, this film from the one and only Robert Rodriguez. This movie that was the inspiration from one of his kids, one of his kids, his son, whom was responsible for bringing this film to life, based off of his son's dream and imaginations and such, and yeah, with making a movie of, what was inspired from his son. I mean, you gotta admit, that was really cool and very sweet of Rodriguez to do that. A good father right there. Yeah, because, without a doubt, this one film from Robert Rodriguez, it has its charm. And it definitely, nowadays, has its fans and lovers and, yeah, anybody that really enjoys this, yeah. Having nostalgic memories of watching this movie, us 2000s babies and when this came out, and when watching it on TV and so on, getting a DVD copy of this. So, yeah, that's right. I am finally reviewing from 2005, and seeing as how it is celebrating its anniversary, Robert Rodriguez's The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl in 3D. Yes. So yes, The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl in 3D. Yeah, because 3D being in the title. Yeah. Man, because the memories I have of watching The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl. Well, one thing I did mention, when Sharkboy and Lavagirl had been on TV, because one of the very first times I ever watched this movie was on the Disney Channel. And yeah, because I remember, and I'm sure you guys do too, where there was a time where Disney Channel, they showed this movie a good chunk of times, and especially, and shout out to my mom, because she had a good feeling that the reason that they were constantly showing Sharkboy and Lavagirl was, well, around that time, Taylor Lautner was becoming a big name because of the Twilight films. Is it not obvious? Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, Sharkboy and Lavagirl having been shown on Disney Channel, yeah, a pretty good fit, and if it doesn't, feel like something that would be say, a Disney Channel original movie. But the fact that it isn't, yeah. But, yeah. The few times that I had watched this movie on Disney Channel, I don't recall getting a DVD copy of it, but when, say, watching it, on streaming and a couple of other times, yeah. And having done a rewatch of this, and because now I'm reviewing it, yeah. Because looking back at this movie, yeah, because it's still a not bad, enjoyable, family-friendly film from the genius mind of Rodriguez, who really knows how to do some family-friendly films, and also doing films for, the adults, rated R film content. Because look at the last movie I reviewed of his. And yeah, seeing as how, well, Rodriguez, most famously having done the Spy Kids movies, and after doing the first three, he would wound up doing this, and yeah, it's so obvious because looking at the way this movie is done, the exact same kind of style as how it was done in the Spy Kids movies, with the CG and visual effects, and, yeah. I think that what this movie has to offer, with its storyline, its cast of characters, and even though, yeah, sadly, this movie didn't do that great when it came out, but still, those that do like it, and I'm sure that goes for some of you, and even as of now, it seems as though And I'm pretty sure that it has a lot more love and appreciation. And that is good to see. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like a masterpiece or anything like that. You know, it's harmless. It's just a fun, entertaining, family-friendly film. That's all it really is, yeah. And it's very creative, you know, because, again, from the mind of one of Rodriguez's kids and what Rodriguez incorporated in this movie, being inspired by one of his kids, you know, just, yeah, it's really amazing. What we see in this movie, all the wacky and creative things that happen on this planet called the planet Drool, and seeing our main, like, superheroes and what they're like, you know, the titled characters themselves, and, you know, I want to say that, I think for a lot of us, this movie was one of our earliest introductions to, like, say, well, Taylor Lautner, pretty much. I don't know, because what about George Lopez? Because George Lopez being in this movie, probably for me, just a little bit, but I think, yeah, I did see maybe a little bit of his show, the George Lopez show. I believe as though, yeah. But, yeah, just, you know, overall, with what the adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl, what it has to offer, what it's like, you know, it's pretty entertaining, you know, very interesting, strange, if that's okay to call it that, but, you know, still, yeah. It's definitely a memorable film from the early 2000s, and yeah, you know, it came out the year when, yeah, 2005 was definitely a big year for movies, and 2005 being a big year for Rodriguez, because he had this, and the previous film that I reviewed, Sin City. So yeah, and he kind of pulled this Spielberg move, doing that kind of thing, where, you know, sometimes Spielberg releasing 2 movies, you know, in 1 year, or, you know, DreamWorks doing the same thing too, you know, because DreamWorks most famously releasing 2 animated films in the same year. So Rodriguez having done the same thing because, you know, before this and Sin City, you know, he previously released Spy Kids 3 and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. So yeah, pulling a little bit of that Spielberg move. But anyways, all right, so with the first things I've had to say about this movie out of the way, yeah, now as always, for me, read the description / the story. Bullied by classmates, young Max escapes into a fantasy, conjuring up the action-packed lives of Lavagirl and Sharkboy. But one day, Lavagirl and Sharkboy suddenly come to life, and their world, planet Drool, needs a hero named Max. As Max escapes to planet Drool, he battles aliens and tries to save his new friend's planet from destruction. He also battles his bullies, who have become villains like the Ice Princess. I don't know. No, she wouldn't count. Just no, because that's not right. Because, you know, we know whom the villain is, and it's not the Ice Princess. But more on the Ice Princess later. So yeah. All right, so I think that's a bit of a goof right there in the description / the story, but yeah, with what I'm reading. All right, so with that out of the way now, me reading the description / the story, let us now dive into the film itself. Yes, so, well, starting off where we actually get the origin story of Sharkboy, and yeah, that literally being his name before he becomes Sharkboy, because, well, Sharkboy and his dad, and yeah, he's literally credited as Sharkboy's dad. Sharkboy's dad being played by Rico Torres, and Sharkboy age 5 being played by, Rebel Rodriguez. That's really cool. Yeah, one of Rodriguez's kids, actually 2 of his kids, playing younger versions of Sharkboy, because yeah, age 5 of Sharkboy being Rebel, and then, Racer playing Sharkboy age 7. So that, and hey, that's really cool, because, yeah, Racer, the one son of Robert, who was responsible for this movie coming to life. Yeah, so it's great to see that, yeah, and makes sense, and very fitting that, yeah, he is in this movie. So, the origin story of Sharkboy, because, well, his father being a marine biologist, and his son definitely being fascinated in sharks, and, well, hence he got the name Sharkboy. And feeding sharks and giving them names, each of them. But then one day, Sharkboy's dad's laboratory out in the ocean got destroyed from this incoming storm. There was a tornado. And, well, luckily, Sharkboy and his dad survived. However, they were drift apart because they survived, but, yeah, they were separated from each other. They survived in, inflatable rafts and, yeah, they were being drifted away out to sea, being separated, and yeah, Sharkboy being all alone. But until one of the sharks that Sharkboy fed, recognized Sharkboy and telling his fellow sharks not to take a bite of him because he's a friend. So they take in Sharkboy to where they live, this cave of sharks, and, well, now they're his new family. And thus they raise him as one of their own, and, well, up to the age of 7, that's where Sharkboy would start to become half boy, half shark, and yeah, growing gills, a fin, and teeth, and yeah. And then, years later, Sharkboy would come face to face with whom is first off the narrator of the opening to this movie, Max. And Max being played by young Caden Boyd, coming face to face with Sharkboy, now a bit older, played by young Taylor Lautner. Yes. So yeah, this is where Taylor Lautner steps in, and Max brings Sharkboy back home. Max's parents are too distracted because they're having an argument, and yeah, sneaking Sharkboy upstairs in the bathroom, putting him in a sink, not a sink, shower. Filling it up with water in the shower, and feeding Sharkboy, and Max learns from Sharkboy where Sharkboy shares Max, about his father being lost and, his adventures, and mentioning about this planet that is so cool it will make you drool, and hence Max calling it Planet Drool. Then at one point, Max and Sharkboy are visited by something that's glowing, that has, purple hair, and, yeah, because her costume, how it looks and such, and, yeah, it's glowing and flaming, and, Max referring to her as Lavagirl, and, yeah, her smiling because, well, that being her name, so Max, got that right, yeah. And Lavagirl basically has arrived to bring Sharkboy along with her back to Planet Drool. They offer Max to come with them, but he tells them that he has school tomorrow. Lavagirl, according to Max, still narrating, had a sad look on her face, but they proceeded on to Planet Drool. And if you noticed, Lavagirl left a couple of burned footprints on the grass. And, yeah. And how we would see that a little later. Nice attention to detail, and little did Max realize, because he forgot about that. Because, yeah, I mean, after Sharkboy and Lavagirl disembarked for Planet Drool, Max hadn't seen them since then, and yeah, and when we see Max, he's sharing his story to his class, and yeah, because saying that that's what he did this summer. But of course, his classmates don't believe him, throwing, crumbled paper and such, and, yeah. He was basically supposed to tell a real, true story of what happened this summer. But according to Max, it was real. But of course, they don't believe him. And we also get, Max's teacher, which being Mr. Electricidad. Yeah, I think I did pronounce that right. Even, some of the classmates find that very confusing with his name. Yeah. And Mr. Electricidad being played by the one and only George Lopez. Yes, this is where George Lopez steps in. And, yeah, and, well, only one classmate in Max's class does believe in his stories. And that is Marissa, being played by young Sasha Petersey. I don't even think I'm getting her last name right. But we would know her best being in Pretty Little Liars. You know who she is. And yeah, she's a good actress. But yeah. And yeah, because hard to believe that she was in this Then look what she would go on to do next, most notably Pretty Little Liars. So she's the only one that believes in Max's story and finds it really cool with the Sharkboy and Lavagirl characters. And, well, yeah, because, again, none of the other classmates believe in Max's stories, and yeah, one most notably being Linus, being played by young Jacob Davich, if I'm getting his last name right, again, you know me sometimes. And some of the other classroom kids, they were played by, classroom kid number 1 being played by young Mark Musso, classroom kid number 2, Shane Graham, and number 3, Tiger Darrow, and there were a few others that, a couple of others that, I might as well name them, because, they were uncredited. Some of the other classroom kids, like there was Chloe Chung, Araceli Gonzalez, I got the last name right, Anthony Gujardo, Tiana Hadid, if I'm saying that right, and also Cameron Ten Nepal. Okay, and apparently there was a few other characters which I don't recall seeing them. Like there was a teacher played by Peyton Hayslip, and the principal played by Andre Helene. If I'm saying that right, maybe that was probably from the deleted scenes. I don't know, but yeah, and another and our Gonzalez was the principal. Okay, so again, I don't recall seeing those characters, but I'm probably right when I say this, probably because we saw those characters in deleted scenes. But anyways, so yeah. So, things not going good for Max with what he shared, and even, Linus was getting to him, if it's true, why don't you bring them over to school tomorrow? But Max having no idea where they are. And then it's Linus's turn to share what he did this past summer. And basically, he shares a story that is an insult to Max. All the other classmates find it funny, but not the teacher, And he has a word with both Max and Linus, asking them if maybe they could be friends, but, both of them, Jenks, saying no, but, telling them that they should. And the teacher having a word with Max, just him, because this, he's in the real world, and, he shouldn't, share this stuff, that he just brought up about, what he's dreamt of, and so on. And at one point, Mr. Electricidad, loses his train of thought, because he was trying to, give some advice and wise words to Max. And then Max, writing in his dream journal, no dreaming, because he will not share this to anybody else anymore, he'll just keep it to himself, Then there's a moment where Linus shows off to Max what he drew, which being Sharkboy, with electric eels, being lowered down, in a pool of electric eels, and Max saying to Linus, that what he's done is weak, and, well, Linus was about to take Max's dream journal, but then it starts where they start to chase Max around the playground to get his dream journal, and eventually, they end up getting his dream journal, and Linus telling Max that he'll bring it over tomorrow at class, so one of the classmates just, golly. And besides, because, how old Linus is, and does he really need to have, a gang or something of bullies? You get what I'm saying? This, I think even the Nostalgia Critic did bring that up, because I will mention the Nostalgia Critic a few times, because, his review of this movie just spot on. In fact, I just remembered where Caden Boyd, who played Max, he actually appreciated the Nostalgia Critic's review. Because there were a few times that some actors and actresses in certain movies that Doug Walker reviewed as the Nostalgia Critic actually did respond to his reviews. I recall a few cast members from Tommy Wiseau's The Room complimented on Doug's review. So, there you go. But anyways, so later that evening, Max has gone to bed. However, he hears the voices of Sharkboy and Lavagirl. And by the way, Lavagirl being played by young Taylor Dooley. Yes, I'm pretty sure, I got her last name right. They're calling out to him to keep dreaming, but to wake up and such, to daydream, basically. And Max already notices on his bedroom floor that there are some wet footprints, which obviously come from Sharkboy. Then he makes his way downstairs to the kitchen and sees that a plate of cookies and a glass of milk have been tampered with. A few of those cookies have been bitten on, like from Sharkboy, and one cookie that's a bit burned from, well, obviously Lavagirl. And the milk was kind of like bubbling a little, because we clearly noticed something was up with the glass of milk, but yeah. And then, yeah, Max's parents waking up to see that he's up, and, well, he tries to explain that Sharkboy and Lavagirl were present. They don't believe him. I mean, Max's dad tries to, lift up his son's spirits and so on, but, And by the way, Max's parents, as they're credited, I'm sure they have names, but I don't think we really even hear their names. At least if one of them says the name to each other. But, yeah, but point being, Max's parents... Max's dad, being played by David Arquette, if I'm getting his last name right. We know who he is. He's a great actor, and hey, most notably being in the Scream films. Yeah, and I also remember him best from being in It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas, who was the Clarence of that. Yeah, if you know, you know. And Max's mom, Christine Davis. Yeah, and they're okay. And besides, as I mentioned earlier, there was one moment where we saw them arguing. They're not really on good terms, especially Max's mom is complaining to her husband on not finding a real job. And it is mentioned by the next morning that, writing is a job. It can be. He's not wrong, technically, but just with whatever he's doing, I don't know. Just, they don't really explain it that much. They really don't. And how they rekindle, they patch things up, but until I get there, just, yeah. Anyways, so, Max's mom telling him to, go back and, sleep and such, and Max's dad telling his wife that, kids have to have their dreams, and that's very true, yeah. And Max's dad taking a bite on that burned cookie, who's not making friends with these cookies, and he had to spit it out of the sink, because, yeah. But did they not? They were right there in plain sight. The way that those cookies were bite on, the one with the shark teeth and the one that was burned, how did they not immediately notice that? Max's dad technically did when he ate on the burned one, but just, yeah. And then Max trying to tell himself that there's no such thing as Sharkboy and Lavagirl, but, And then he starts to dream something, and we actually get a few visions of what we are to see very later in this movie. Yeah. And then, well, next morning it's school time, and there's a moment where Max's dad shows Max a robot that Max tried to build but never finish, and stopped trying to build it, and that being Tobor. And Tobor having a big part very later on in this movie. And yeah, and as I brought up earlier, those burned footprint marks on the grass, because they're still there, and Max's mom pointing that out. And it seems like Max has forgotten about that, that Lavagirl left those footprint marks, those burned footprint marks, I should say. Yeah, gotta slow down, but yeah. And just so happens that they're living right across the street from school, and according to Max's mom, Max's dad thought that it would save up gas or something, just, but yeah, and, Max's mom telling him to just, let the dreams fly and so on, just, yeah, the bit of advice that she gives to him, but just, yeah. Then at school, well, because there's an incoming storm, and with a tornado nearby, and Mr. Electricidad, asking his students, who knows where tornadoes come from, and explaining how the tornadoes are made, cool air and hot air combining and such, and yeah, facts. And there's a moment where Max, notices that Marissa is a bit cold, and she's up front, and because, well, a vent, is right on top of her, literally, and offering to switch seats, but she tells Max that she has to be up front. And also, Mr. Electricidad, yesterday, telling Max that, he's got to make friends. And it seems like, yeah, Max is trying to make friends with Marissa, and seeing as how she's the only one that is really softened towards Max. But, Mr. Electricidad tells Max that he shouldn't be making friends with Marissa because she's his daughter. Yeah, him being kind of a protective dad, and why she's up front. So, yeah, not gonna let Max make friends with her, but, But, I mean, doesn't Mr. Electricidad know that Max is harmless? I mean, because the talk that they had yesterday and knowing that Max is a good kid just beats me. I don't know. And then when Linus makes his way to class, well, Max demanding his dream journal back. And there was one moment where Mr. Electricidad almost accidentally called Linus Minus. And yeah, even giving Linus a warning that they may change his name to Minus. And when, yeah, even Mr. Electricidad telling Linus to hand over the dream journal back to Max, Max looking through the dream journal, and yeah, Linus screwed up the dream journal. Yeah, doodling over it and such, and yeah. And it just gets a bit out of hand, and Mr. Electricidad has had quite enough with his students and telling Linus and Max that at the end of class, you'll be in the principal's office with your parents. Like, it's like his eye, just, with your parents. Like, and I know the Nostalgia Critic pointed that out most notably, but because it's so obvious. Then the storm outside gets too out of hand, and it actually breaks the walls, the windows of the classroom, and, well, Sharkboy and Lavagirl making their way in, and they require Max. And everybody's seeing Sharkboy and Lavagirl. They're actually right there, and they feel a bit intimidated, especially the teacher. And basically, Sharkboy and Lavagirl tell Max that why they need him is, well, they gotta make their way to Planet Drool, because Max is the only answer to saving Planet Drool. And Max thinking that this is just a dream and that they're actually not there, but it's not. It's definitely not. And even Mr. Electricidad, telling Max that you better go with them, because, yeah, being terrified around them. And, Mr. Electricidad can already tell that this is something very serious, and, yeah, this is nothing ordinary, and with that storm outside. So, Max disembarking with Sharkboy and Lavagirl, they get on the, how would you call it? The, Sharkit? I guess, but, they board it, and wearing some goggles, only Sharkboy gets, the cool goggles, shark goggles, while Lavagirl getting, girl ones, and so does Max. And Sharkboy and Lavagirl, especially Sharkboy, this is his Sharkit. He has no idea how to work it, and they're asking Max, because, well, Max being responsible for everything that comes to life, as well as Sharkboy and Lavagirl. Max didn't dream hard on certain things in the movie, and and with this, not knowing how to fly the rocket that's themed to a shark. But overall, They managed to, it manages to fly, and thus making its way to Planet Drool. And once they've arrived to Planet Drool, well, because Sharkboy and Lavagirl tell Max that, Planet Drool is slowly dying. It began yesterday because the darkness has emerged. And, Max's dreams are being messed up, and hence with Planet Drool soon to die, because, yeah, it's all being done at the dream layer. And, in order to get to the dream layer, they have to go through different parts of Planet Drool. They have to go through, say, the passage of time, and go through the train and the train of thought, stream of consciousness, and also the land of ice, and yeah, they would then find their way to the dream layer. So yeah, and a good chunk of times where Sharkboy is not happy with Max, like, thinking that Max was responsible for freezing up the ocean, because, that's where Sharkboy resides on Planet Drool, and Lavagirl trying to keep it together with Sharkboy that, Max didn't mean to do these certain things, and that, he's a good kid, and, even Lavagirl telling Sharkboy that, that they're not villains. And, Lavagirl especially not wanting that to happen to her. And because, well, Max being responsible for creating those two. So, yeah. And also, Max doesn't really remember Planet Drool. He doesn't remember all of his dreams. Well, the fact is he wrote what he had dreamt in his dream journal. So yeah, and to speed things up some, because what they do next is actually make their way, to a carnival, and everybody is, there's really no one around, and everyone is basically on this endless fun coaster, as it's referred to, and Sharkboy and Lavagirl mentioning to Max about, Mr. Electric, and being, the one in charge of, Planet Drool, technically, because what he specifically does. He's supposed to be running Planet Drool, with its power and such, but by this point, everything being dark, and yeah, something's not quite right with what Mr. Electric is doing, and not letting the kids off the endless fun coaster, because if they are not on the coaster, then basically they would rest and dream, and by doing so, this would cause power to be lost for Mr. Electric. So, yeah, Max telling Sharkboy and Lavagirl that they should probably help those kids, and they do so, stopping the roller coaster, and they ask the kids, like, where Mr. Electric could be, and so on. Everybody's raising their hands up. Well, because they're upside down, and they free the kids. Max, Sharkboy, and Lavagirl hop on the roller coaster. A part of it detaches, and it's making its way directly to where Mr. Electric is. And with more descriptions on what Mr. Electric is like that, yeah, Sharkboy and Lavagirl share to Max, well, then they end up coming face-to-face with Mr. Electric, and Mr. Electric also being played by George Lopez. And if it was not obvious, because of the teacher's name. Duh. So, yeah. And, yeah, the design and look for Mr. Electric in this, because you literally have George Lopez's face inside this robotic body, it's pretty interesting, and it's really clever, because, looking at the behind the scenes, with that, probably, yeah, very fascinating. But anyways, by the way, because, speaking of which, because, yeah, more on the CG and visual effects, because like I said, the CG and visual effects, like, have, in the movie, having its own charm, and, why did people have to compare this with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? Okay, there's no way, and since I reviewed the third Ant-Man film, and I know I did comment this, because, look, yeah, I mean, maybe most of the CG and visual effects in the third Ant-Man film, maybe not the best. I mean, they didn't look bad to me, but they were nowhere as bad looking as, say, well, how the CG and visual effects look in Sharkboy and Lavagirl. There's no way! At least, like, the CG and visual effects in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had some detail, and I also seem to recall that, well, I mean, not just Sharkboy and Lavagirl, but definitely, they were comparing Ant-Man 3 with the Spy Kids movies. Still, really? Because, is that really necessary? And I think even, like, comparing MODOK, his appearance in the third Ant-Man film, to Mr. Electric. Oh, give me a break, just... I don't know, I'm just simply saying, okay? Just, bear with me. But yeah, so, back to the movie. With them coming face-to-face with Mr. Electric, and he's not running, the carnival right, and yeah, because he's running it down to the ground, and yeah, those were his orders, and, well, someone else has taken over Planet Drool. It should be Max, but it's not. And, well, Sharkboy and Lavagirl are here to stop Mr. Electric, and Mr. Electric telling them, you and what army? And his army of cords unleash, and thus, yeah, a little fight between Sharkboy and Lavagirl taking on those cords, and Max as well. Yeah, and when they do defeat the cords, like, yeah, and even Lavagirl tried to take on Mr. Electric, but, yeah, by shooting lava at him, trying to knock him out, but, you know, that didn't work, and she fell for it. Well, yeah, because when they now come face-to-face with Mr. Electric, well, they point out to Mr. Electric that they have their secret weapon and such, and that being Max, and telling Max to take it away, and Max doing this, but he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Well, neither do we, the audience. Just, yeah, what is Max supposed to do? What was he expecting? Because he doesn't know, and they did mention to him earlier that he does have powers, but he doesn't know for now. And it didn't go according to plan for Sharkboy and Lavagirl. So then Mr. Electric disposing Sharkboy, Lavagirl, and Max, which, by the way, Mr. Electric holding them up in the air, that was one of those visions that we saw in Max's dreams earlier. Yeah. So disposing them to the dream graveyard. Yeah. But they first find themselves at the passage of time, because with these cuckoo clocks, you know, and the birds coming out, and, well, you know, the more talk that Sharkboy and Lavagirl and Max have, and, well, because, you know, Lavagirl is hoping to know her identity and what her real purpose is. And Sharkboy, you know, wanting to search for his father, and also, you know, at times calling himself the king of the ocean. Yeah. And, well, you know, the problem is, Max doesn't have his dream journal, because we saw him throwing it right at Linus's head, you know. So, you know, he doesn't have it, so not much help with the situations that's going on with each Lavagirl and Sharkboy. By the way, another mentioning of the Nostalgia Critics review, referring to when it comes to the passage of time and those cuckoo clocks, because some shots in this movie, obviously being made for, you know, being 3D shots. You see the movie in 3D with 3D glasses, yeah. Nostalgia Critic referring to it as the YouTube poop of 3D. I don't think so, just not even close, but, you know. At least, you know, this movie had a decent budget with what it was going for. And by the way, because Industrial Light and Magic was involved in this movie. So, I mean, they know what they were doing, because they, you know, Rodriguez and the others knew what they specifically wanted for this movie. It's style. Just, you know, bear with them, please, you know. Anyways, so then they find themselves at the dream graveyard, and then, meanwhile, Mr. Electric is paid a visit, you know, to someone whom is the ruler of Planet Drool, because, you know, being informed of Max and, you know, whom that is, you know, in charge of Planet Drool orders Mr. Electric to go after Sharkboy and Lavagirl and Max, and little does Max know, and it's revealed that, you know, he's the daydreamer, and when, you know, whenever Max finds out about this, then they're screwed, you know, whom is the leader of Planet Drool and Mr. Electric. So thus, yeah, Mr. Electric has to go after them by using the Plug Hounds, yeah. So then at one point, while they're in the dream graveyard, well, because, you know, Sharkboy and Lavagirl try to get Max to dream, and by closing his eyes, but at one point, Max, you know, what he sees and he's thinking of is, you know, something sweet and delicious, you know, milk and cookies or something like that, you know. And basically, he's a bit hungry. And what Sharkboy and Lavagirl offer to him, like, Lavagirl giving him some, like, something crunchy, you know, but, yeah, it's very hot, you know, lava-ish. And then Sharkboy offering something that's fresh, like fish, but yeah, it doesn't look fresh. Lavagirl tries to cook it some, but yeah, it turns crispy. But Max still struggling, trying to, get some sleep and, well, dreaming, basically. And then Sharkboy suggests on punching him out literally. But, I mean, that's not gonna work, and Lavagirl trying to stop him from that. Then at one point, and when Max is backing away, he notices a giant robotic hand in the dream graveyard, and then realizes that, seeing Tobor residing in the dream graveyard. And, basically, Max attempted to build Tobor to basically help him with his schoolwork, math and such. And Max, believing as though that Tobor is still active, and, telling Tobor to awake, and Tobor coming to life, and, yes, as Tobor says, and Tobor being another character that's played by George Lopez, because he has a total, in Sharkboy and Lavagirl, George Lopez has a total of 4 characters that he plays. 2 that he voices, and 2 that he plays on screen. Well, of course, we know who those 2 characters are that he plays on screen, but but the first voice we hear of George Lopez is, well, Tobor, and they get some help and information from Tobor on what they should do, and in order for Max to dream properly. And even like Lavagirl and Sharkboy asking Tobor questions about what they about themselves, and even like Sharkboy suggesting on knocking out Max, but Tobor telling Sharkboy, like, no, that will definitely not be necessary. And, well, that's when it is suggested that the best place for Max to dream is the land of milk and cookies. Yes. And, they ask Tobor if he can help get them there, but Tobor can't move. But then Sharkboy, cleverly, says to Tobor that he can move his eyes and mouth, and that's what literally happens. His eyes and mouth, come off the robot body, and they're floating. So Sharkboy and Lavagirl riding on the eyes of Tobor, and Max riding on the mouth. And Tobor has some very wise words to say for Max about, dreams and so on. Pretty good. And they make their way to the train of thought, and literally, because it's a flying train that is also like a school bus, And Max, he does apologize. Before Tobor disembarks, Max apologizes to Tobor about forgetting him. And, well, Tobor, making it very clear to Max that, you just saved me. I'm free. Just floating away happily. But for Sharkboy, Lavagirl, and Max, they have an issue with the train of thought because they're not able to get it working properly, and Max didn't dream of that, And what else could they do? And Sharkboy just simply putting it, at this, yell, scream, and that's what they literally do. But then Lavagirl has them jump out of the train of thought, just in the nick of time. They make their way to the land of milk and cookies. Isn't the land of milk and cookies something that, we would dream of too? Come on, Because again, you gotta admit that for this movie, it was very creative with what was put in this movie and with the planet Drool. Probably some things that we coincidentally dreamt of too, like, most notably, the land of milk and cookies. So, making their way to the land of milk and cookies, and they hop on this cookie that's floating in a river of milk. Sharkboy accidentally stepped in chocolate. He tasted it. But chocolate's not his thing, because seafood, stuff like that, is his thing. And, well, Max, now having the opportunity to go to sleep and dream. But the rockiness of the cookie in the river milk is not helping him. Then at one point, something happens where, Sharkboy, Lavagirl, and Max, they come face to face with 2 cookie giants that look exactly like Max's parents, and they do. And the giant cookie that looks like Max's dad going after the cookie, they jump off and he eats it and blah, just like, spitting it out. And, well, the two giant cookies, they seem happy together, and them just happily walking off together holding hands. And, this is a very, nice moment here because, with what we've seen earlier, Max's parents, not on good terms, and with what Max's mom said to him earlier before he went off to school that day. Because Lavagirl realizing that, this is one of those things that Max has dreamt of, where his parents are happy together and not fighting. And Lavagirl making it clear that, dreams take time, take a lot of work, and, they wouldn't come true. How she specifically puts at it, it does make a good point, and Max trying to dream so hard of that, but, it hasn't come true yet. So after that, then at one point, Mr. Electric, with the plug hounds, in pursuit, trying to locate and find our three main characters, and, two funny moments where Mr. Electric accidentally sneezes, and, one of the plug hounds is sniffing Mr. Electric's electric butt, I assume, but then Mr. Electric farts, and, the ruler of Planet Drool checks up on Mr. Electric and such, and, Mr. Electric pointing out that someone is dreaming, and that being Max, but little does he know that he is already dreaming, so, and thus, further in the land of milk and cookies, Max now finding a place to relax and dream. And this is where we come to a memorable moment, I guess you could say, where, Sharkboy singing a song. Dream, 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 dream. Yeah, that. And it somehow is working, but the darkness is approaching, and at that point, the song that Sharkboy is singing starts to not help anymore, and it's starting to give Max nightmares, and we get the same visions that we saw in Max's dream earlier, because, seeing a sad Max and, Lavagirl and a necklace, and Lavagirl sensing that, Max is having nightmares, and by waking him up, shooting lava at him, and, but Max, couldn't fully remember on what he had just dreamt. But that is all interrupted when, Mr. Electric and the Plughounds step in, and that sequence where the three of them are taking on the Plughounds, and geez, because Sharkboy really going at it, Taylor Lautner being very aggressive, and, to think, because this would be before he would be aggressive as a werewolf and such. You know where I'm going with this, But then, say, a moment where Lavagirl, she starts to lose her powers. They're not working as they should. And Max, him trying to join in the action, and taking some cream or something, because and just frosting, I should say, and putting it on his cheeks, and and he knocks out some of the Plughounds, but one of them electrocuting him literally. And when one of the Plughounds has Lavagirl tangled up, she manages to melt herself out, and that's what we see. And I wouldn't say it's disturbing. I mean, it's understandable that, she can pull that kind of trick, but, still, even how the Nostalgia Critic reacted to that, just pretty funny, and a great delivery with his reaction, what the hell? It never fails for Nostalgia Critic to be so hilarious with his facial reactions and how he reacts to certain things, Anyways, so eventually, they do escape. Even, say, when Sharkboy's song was working, it summoned a shark bike, but Max didn't dream of gas, so, but Max trying to dream something else, Sharkboy hopes that it's something else shark-related, but instead, it's a banana split, and but it is a banana split boat, and that will still come in handy, so that's what they do. So they escape, and, thus, they are slowly but surely going to be making their way to where they have to go next, and that could be the best solution to freeze time. Because one thing Max did remember from what he dreamt previously was this necklace, and by using Lavagirl's finger to make a drawing of it, it's the crystal heart, yeah, which comes from the Ice Princess. And Sharkboy having a lot of compliment on the Ice Princess, but not for Lavagirl, because, you know, the yin and yang, basically, because, you know, Lavagirl's fire, and the Ice Princess is ice, and yeah. And Lavagirl's saying that both her and the Ice Princess are not on good terms. Yeah. I mean, did they ever meet? I don't think so, because I think, yeah, she did establish that, but still, you know. Yeah, so thus they have to make their way to the Land of Ice in order to retrieve the heart necklace, the crystal heart. Yeah, that's what's referred to. And yeah, thus making their way to the Land of Ice, but when they make their way, there's a moment where, you know, they have to cross a bridge, but Lavagirl can't because she might melt the bridge. But in order for her to pass the bridge, she has to be asleep, dreaming, while she's crossing. And she attempts to do so, and she was almost about to sneeze. Sharkboy was quick enough to stop her from sneezing, but she still did, you know, blowing, a flame and sending Sharkboy flying. But eventually, yeah, she does fall asleep, and thus, you know, slowly, calmly walking on the bridge. But to make things worse, for this situation, the Plughounds are nearby, and they're making their way. Max tries to warn her, then Sharkboy does, and yeah, and then, yeah, Lavagirl waking up, and just, yeah, Sharkboy and Max, they make a run for it, and so does Lavagirl, just, yeah, and because of this, it causes the bridge to melt and break, but they, fell into a trap. Yeah, that's what basically has happened. Yeah, Mr. Electric being on the other side, and when they make their way to the other side, yeah, Mr. Electric is right there to capture them, and thus, yeah, them getting captured by Mr. Electric and taken to the Dream Lair, and whom is the leader / ruler of Planet Drool is, well, Linus. Yeah, if it was not obvious because of this, like, this floating, like, head, you know, and if you couldn't tell by the look of the face and, you know, the voice being altered, yeah, it's Linus. But on Planet Drool, he goes by Minus. And another thing to bring up on the Nostalgia Critics review, don't tell me that this was pretty funny, because, you know, the look of Minus's costume, the Nostalgia Critics saying that it looks like Eddie Munster impregnated at Berserk. I mean, because, you know, wearing that same kind of cape with that, like, cape collar, you know, and a bit of the hairstyle, yeah, that was pretty funny. Just like the comparisons that the Nostalgia Critic makes, they never cease to be hilarious. Yeah. And I'd say probably that was a pretty good one. So, yeah. Anyway, so, and you know, because Jacob being Minus right here, pretty good, because, yeah, playing good at evil, and, well, with Minus interrogating each Sharkboy, Lavagirl, and Max, well, because Minus telling and mentioning Sharkboy about the whereabouts of his father, check the bottom of the ocean, and also the electric eels. We see that, and that's apparently a weakness for Sharkboy. And when turning to Lavagirl, once Minus figures out how to, you know, freeze the planet's core, all of Lavagirl's powers will disappear. And when turning to Max, you know, telling Max that one thing that he cannot escape from, your mind, how he specifically puts at it, and laying out more details on what his devious plans are going to be and such, and by disposing them, and he's got some dreaming to do, and, well, by this point, Sharkboy, Lavagirl, and Max being thrown in a cage, and by this point, they don't know what to do, especially since they don't have enough strength to tear off the bars of the cage. But that is until these bubbles that we saw earlier when they were in the dream graveyard, referred to as Lalas. They're literally bubbles with smiley faces and going la 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 la. Sharkboy's the only one that can't stand it, especially with his shark hearing. And Lavagirl encouraging them to sing louder, and when they do so, Sharkboy lets it out, and yeah, with his shark teeth emerging, tearing off the bars, and yeah, that worked. So thus, they make their way out of the cage, and well, they sneak into the dream lair to Max to retrieve the dream journal, and luckily for Max and for them, because, well, Minus is still asleep, but he fell asleep with his eyes open. A bit creepy, right? Because, yeah. So then Max looking through his journal, and, well, mentioning to Lavagirl that she has a lava bike, which it emerges, and then breaking the news to Sharkboy about the whereabouts of his father, that he is in the bottom of the ocean, but not dead. He's in a submarine looking for Sharkboy, and the specific location on where his dad is, and yeah, Sharkboy being familiar with that. And Lavagirl curious to know if there's anything else in Max's dream journal, anything positive about her. And she tries to look at it herself by, taking the dream journal, but she accidentally burns it. And Sharkboy told her, like, just, no, don't! And just, yeah. And then I love Sharkboy's comment when he says, "That's terrific, LG." But, yeah, because a big mistake on Lavagirl, but not intentional. But yeah, then Lavagirl just, with her fist, and why did you make me out of lava? Why, Max? Because again, just Lavagirl not fully understanding her purpose. And Max tries to, patch things up with Lavagirl, and Sharkboy told Max to let her cool down some, and yeah, Lavagirl just going on about, why she's made of fire, and the fact that she can't, everything she touches, she will burn it, and can't even get that close to Sharkboy because, well, they too are also yin and yang, because her being lava, and Sharkboy being someone in the ocean, and so on. Just, yeah. But, with what Max has to say to Lavagirl, trying to cheer things up for Lavagirl and such. But yeah, then with the darkness still on its way, by this point they have 10 minutes left, and yeah, well, this time they've got to work together, and well, because they still got to make their way. For one thing, they still got to make their way to the Ice Palace, and to retrieve the Crystal Heart. And even Max telling them that, you're Sharkboy and Lavagirl, you can do anything. So thus, them making their way to the land of ice, yeah, and to the ice castle, the kingdom. And once there, because, yeah, they think that, yeah, up top of this tall statue, this tower of ice, lies the Crystal Heart. And they try to retrieve it. Sharkboy tries to retrieve it at first, but he accidentally slips and his shark fin gets stuck, then Max taking it upon himself, borrowing one of Sharkboy's gloves and retrieving it, while Lavagirl, all she can do is just sit there, and even Max gave her a piece of chunk of ice to munch on, to cool her down some. And, it's helping her. But then, Max accidentally slipped, and the Crystal Heart slipped out of his hands, Lavagirl catching it, but it causes her to freeze. Then, some ice guards awaken, and they are taken directly to meet with the Ice Princess. And thus, yeah, this is where we see the Ice Princess confronting Max and Sharkboy and Lavagirl. And the Ice Princess being Marissa, yep. And also the Ice Princess's father, who's, the Ice Princess's father is literally, a block of ice, and being voiced by, also, George Lopez. Yeah, that's his second voice role. Tobor and the Ice Guardian, as he's referred to, but he is the father of the Ice Princess, so yeah. And, well, because, yeah, it wasn't, they thought that they retrieved the Crystal Heart, but that was just a decoy. The real one is one of the others that are on these tower of ice, but Max quickly realizing that the others are not the actual one. She has it around her neck. And yeah, because again, them wanting to use the Crystal Heart to freeze time, and in order to stop Planet Drool from dying and to defeat Minus. But the only way they can do this is by using the Ice Princess herself, but the Ice Princess's father / Ice Guardian making it very clear that she cannot leave, the land of ice entirely. So thus, the Ice Princess recommends that, they should just go ahead and use it. She'll allow them to take it, but not without the Ice Guardian's blessing. And the Ice Princess, saying to her father that, embarrassing her or something, just, how she puts that, it's pretty funny. And Max making a pledge to guard the Crystal Heart, it's almost like a bit of a marriage kind of thing, do you take the Crystal Heart, so on, so just, yeah. So thus, things turned out pretty good, and thus they take the crystal with them. But, unfortunately, when they use it, and they literally, they pushed Lavagirl still frozen to where they had to be, yeah. And when trying to use it, it didn't work. When Lavagirl finally melted, she was trying to tell them that it wouldn't work. The only way of doing it and using it is to have the Ice Princess be there. Just, yeah. But sadly, that didn't go according to plan. And unfortunately, time's run out. Yep, they're too late. The darkness already making its way. And, well, then at one point, they are unexpectedly paid a visit by Mr. Electric, once again coming after them. And even by this point, Sharkboy, he wants to take down Mr. Electric himself. And little does Sharkboy know, and Lavagirl getting a good sense of this, that Sharkboy is going to fall into another trap. And he falls for the trap, because a chunk of ice, it makes a river of water, it breaks off, and, well, Sharkboy, falling for Mr. Electric's trick. And, yep, swimming up towards Mr. Electric, and Mr. Electric making an electric pun, what's up? But Sharkboy's not getting it, and maybe some of us audience don't get it either, but, but yeah, just then Mr. Electric unleashing the electric eels. They get to Sharkboy, and, yep, he's unable to get away from the electric eels. They electrocute him, and he starts to, sink to the bottom of the ocean. And Lavagirl, she's not going to let Sharkboy drown, because, yeah, he can breathe, but not long enough. So, yeah, he will end up drowning if he's not rescued. And Lavagirl, taking it upon herself to jump and dive into the water to save Sharkboy, but Max telling her that she shouldn't, because it will kill her. Her powers will drain, because she's not even supposed to be in water. But Lavagirl, she's going to take that chance, because, well, making it very clear to Max that Sharkboy is her best friend. Yeah, so, not going to let a best friend die. So, her jumping in the water, saving Sharkboy, but, yeah. This, sure enough, did cause Lavagirl to lose her powers, and it seems like, yeah, she's temporarily dead, I guess you could say. Almost. And Sharkboy is still unconscious, and by this point, there's nothing that Max can do, and we do see Max, just like what we saw in his visions, of his dreams, where he was sobbing, and him sobbing over Lavagirl, and yeah, now all he says next and asks himself, what is he gonna do? Then Tobor steps in and gives him another, wise words, and that, what he should do next and such, because the mentioning of dreaming and daydreaming and such, just, yeah, overall, it's nice that Tobor came in once more to help out Max, and after Tobor disembarks, well, Sharkboy regains consciousness, and, yeah, well, as for Lavagirl, well, because, yeah, with her powers being drained, however, well, we do see the volcano starting to glow, and that's where possibly, yeah, it will resurrect Lavagirl, give her powers back, and Sharkboy's the only one that can get her there. He can really run fast and such, and, you know, as he's doing this, well, Max, you know, making it very clear to Lavagirl that, you know, he knows what she is. You know, she's not a bad person. You know, she can glow and, you know, and do something good. With what he specifically says, yeah, that's when, like, yeah, even Lavagirl discovering who she truly is and her purpose. Yeah. And thus, yeah, Lavagirl is resurrected, unleashing, you know, a bright light in the sky, you know, and Mr. Electric and Minus can see this, and just, yeah. And by the way, because there was a moment earlier where Mr. Electric was ordered by Minus to once again go after them, because he was still asleep, and Mr. Electric waking him up, just, yeah. So, then it finally occurs to Max what his powers is, and because he's the daydreamer, just, yeah, with him realizing that, and that he is very powerful, more powerful than, say, Sharkboy and Lavagirl. In fact, that he ran his way to where Sharkboy was, and yeah, what happens next is, Max has got it from here. He'll handle Minus, while Sharkboy once again deals with Mr. Electric. So, Max making his way to confront Minus, and it was so funny and awesome, because, you know, with Minus doing the cape thing, you know, how did you get in here? Just, yeah. And yeah, Max and Minus, they fight it out using their powers, like, you know, Minus summoning piranhas, Max summoning brains, you know, like a drop, you know, a rain of brains. I know the specific name to it, like brain drain, I believe so, yeah. And then, you know, Max, you know, and as the camera gets up close to him, brain fart. And literally, Minus's head becomes big, you know, just... That's one thing that definitely dramatized the Nostalgia Critic, and yeah, because it's actually happening in the movie. And then Minus's head inflates like a balloon, just, you know. Meanwhile, Sharkboy once again confronting Mr. Electric, and this time, yeah, and thanks to Max, unfreezing the ocean, and thus Sharkboy summoning his army of sharks, taking on and defeating Mr. Electric, yeah. And by the way, because Mr. Electric is in the ocean, in water, because should there be some electric or something happening? Just, even with what the Nostalgia Critic pointed out, who cares? Just, it is what it is. Yeah. But then, yeah, coming back to Max and Minus, because, yeah, the fight is not over quite yet. And, well, Max managing to talk it out with Minus to convince Minus that, you know, this isn't what he should be doing. He can do better, you know, do good with dreams. And he even pointed out to Minus that probably it seemed like maybe he was being pushed with the dreams he had and such, with how Max specifically puts at it. And yeah, making a good point. So yeah, overall, Max wanting to come to terms with Minus to do good, and it doesn't take that long for Minus to, you know, go along with this. And, well, they made tall towers, you know, well, and there was a bridge. They collapse and crumble, and Minus was almost about to fall to his death, but Max saving him. So, yeah. So now, Minus has been redeemed and will do better. Yep. And, well, Max and Minus, you know, now they seem to be on good terms, and, well, Sharkboy and Lavagirl making their way, and, yeah. Lavagirl now knowing who she is and, like, being like a princess or something, how she specifically puts at it. And as for Sharkboy, being referred to as the king of the ocean, and Lavagirl kissing Sharkboy on the cheek, you know, ouch. He took it pretty well, but just, yeah. And that would just be the beginning of a bit of romance between, well, Sharkboy and Lavagirl. And, well, yeah, Minus telling Sharkboy and Lavagirl, because, you know, that everything's good for each of them, and, you know, even most notably, Shark Boy will be able to locate and find / reunite with his father. But as for Mr. Electric, well, because, you know, he survived after being attacked by Shark Boy's shark army, and Mr. Electric, well, he's not giving in, because, you know, he's still gonna do some evil stuff, and, yeah, even though, because Minus has now been turned from bad to good, yeah, not Mr. Electric, and Mr. Electric, yeah, he's got other business to take care of, and, with what he says to them, and, well, Mr. Electric, he's making his way to Earth, yep, and, yeah, because, you know, with what he's going to do, and obviously, because, well, what we saw earlier, yeah, this being caused by Mr. Electric, you know, the storm, the tornado, yeah, that being done by Mr. Electric. And by the way, I'm sure you realize that Minus, at one point, got rid of that, like, collar, you know, because a part of his cape, yeah, that was taken off. Like, just for a split second, when cutting back to Minus, it was removed. I'm sure he did that to himself. I don't know, but just... anyways. And then it's brought up to Max that he's technically been asleep, but with what Sharkboy and Lavagirl and Minus specifically say to Max about this, and Lavagirl and Sharkboy tell him that he needs to blink 3 times. And by doing so, well, up to the 3rd time he blinks, he finds himself back at Earth, at school. And, well, technically, this wasn't really a dream, because, you know, he was actually there. And what happens next when he and Linus find themselves back at school? Linus, too, was asleep. They see, and everybody else, including Mr. Electricidad, that Mr. Electric emerges. Charge! Another, like, electric pun. And Mr. Electricidad seeing, you know, Mr. Electric and, you know, clarifying to Max that he's not a bad man, but that was not intentional of Max, and with what he specifically says, it's true, yeah. Then at one point, Max's parents, they're on their way to school to find their son, because, yeah, with the storm happening, and, yeah, because this is where they pretty much out of nowhere patch things up, because unfortunately Max's mom is being, you know, sucked into the tornado, just, yeah, the wind blowing her, and, well, yeah, she, like, Max's dad holding onto a tree and holding on to her, and Max's dad just, you know, telling her, "Don't leave me! I thought you wanted me to leave you!" "No, I don't. You're my best friend." I mean, you know, look at it this way. Obviously, deep down, and that especially goes for Max's dad, he really did love her, but just with him and her being corrupted with the anger and stuff like that, yeah, you get what I'm saying, like, it's understandable, you know, and, yeah, it just seems like they've patched things up, but for her to be blown in the tornado, and when he thinks that, you know, she's lost, and, you know, don't go anywhere, well, sure enough, Lavagirl steps in. She saved Max's mom, and Max's mom's saying to her husband, "I'm not going anywhere." But then he gets blown in the tornado. Lavagirl tried to hold on to him with that tie he was wearing, because we saw that earlier, that he was wearing this tie that he didn't have to do, just like it was a clip-on or something. Yeah, it clipped off, and, you know, uh-oh, and then he's blown into the tornado, but Sharkboy stepping in and saving Max's dad. So, yeah. And, yeah, this is where they get to see Sharkboy and Lavagirl. Yeah. Meanwhile, when Mr. Electric has emerged, well, Mr. Electricidad, you know, asking his students, you know, on, you know, somebody has to take care and confront Mr. Electric, and Linus takes the opportunity to do so, but he stands no chance between Mr. Electric, because Mr. Electric easily zapping him. That's gonna leave a mark. And even Mr. Electric making another electric pun, and nobody gets it. Nobody. Max, Linus, the class students, and Mr. Electricidad, they don't get the electric pun. But then, because Linus wasn't able to take on Mr. Electric, it all falls down to Marissa. Max knows that she is the answer to taking on and defeating Mr. Electric, and especially with the necklace, you know, the heart, the ice heart, the heart crystal. That's right, yeah. Well, by giving it to her and asking her if she knows what she's doing, and she believes that she does, taking off her glasses, going to confront Mr. Electric, and thus using those powers, those ice powers, and easily defeating and taking down Mr. Electric. He freezes up, and just, then he breaks apart, and Mr. Electric is defeated once and for all. The darkness, the storm, all gone. And everything's better than ever now. And Mr. Electricidad complimenting on Max, because Max woke him up, and telling Max that, sometimes the students can, teach the teachers, and how he specifically puts at it. And now the teacher believing in Max and so on. Just, it was really good right there with what Mr. Electricidad had to say about Max. And Max reuniting with his parents, and the epilogue / aftermath. Well, life better than ever for Max. A new story that he shares, and even Linus, starting to like and appreciate Max, and drawing a picture of Max, and something positive, well, with what Max shares at the end of the movie, well, because Lavagirl becoming princess, the princess of lava and such, and Sharkboy, trying to find his father in the ocean. And, well, Sharkboy and Lavagirl now in a relationship, and, well, as of now, Max never sees Sharkboy and Lavagirl anymore. They don't come to visit him, but Max can visit them in his dreams. And to finish it off, well, Max is rebuilding Tobor, and his parents are happy than ever, and and Tobor awakening and, getting the last line of the movie. Yes, and boom, that's how the movie ends. A very satisfying way to end off the movie right there on a very happy note. Don't you think? Just the adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl. It's definitely a memorable, family-friendly film from the early 2000s from Robert Rodriguez himself, and again, one of his sons being responsible for bringing this movie to life. And just, the memories we have of this movie, and where, like I said, probably we coincidentally dreamt and imagined the same things that we see in this movie, that most notably come from the planet Drool, right? Just, from the storyline, the cast of characters, some good moments here and there, the funny and emotional moments, some pretty good music and such, and seeing as how, Robert Rodriguez, doing a lot of music for the movies that he's worked on, that he's directed, and he's also, most notably, done editing for his movies too. The CG and visual effects, but again, like I said, they have a charm. There's a charm to the CG and visual effects in this movie, with what this movie is like. And the same goes for the Spy Kids movies. It's understandable. Or even, like some other movies that Rodriguez has done where he's used CG and visuals, like Sin City, and how the Nostalgia Critic put at it in his review of this movie. Some moments that, probably, would seem kind of awkward or cringy, and because of the CG and visuals, And, again, this movie is not a masterpiece. It doesn't need to be. It's not the best, but it's harmless. It's fun and entertaining. And that's the purpose of this movie. And it's just a simple movie that Rodriguez did, for his kid, with what his son dreamed and imagined of, and with it being turned into a movie. Again, you gotta give it that, because that's very sweet and touching of Robert Rodriguez himself. But just overall, The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl, it's a memorable film from the early 2000s from Rodriguez himself. And I'm giving The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl, just why not? 7 out of 10 stars. Yes, 7 out of 10 stars for The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl in 3D. And what about you guys? What did you think of The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl itself? Any of you that got to experience this in theaters and maybe, well, more likely saw it in 3D? Or if you, like me, got to see this on TV, most prominently on Disney Channel, is it one of your favorite movies from the early 2000s? What are some of your favorite moments from this movie? And with the characters, its storyline, just, yeah. What more do I have to say? Just overall, what do you think of The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl in 3D. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned later tonight, because what I will be reviewing next, well, it's another stop-motion film that comes straight from Artman. And let's just say, it's the film debut of our favorite beloved sheep. Yeah, you know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care. Happy anniversary to The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lavagirl in 3D. And until I review the sequel to Sharkboy and Lavagirl, We Can Be Heroes. Peace out. Dream, 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 dream.